The reunion hall glowed with ambient monolight, crystal chandeliers pulsing faintly blue as Boston's mid-tier awakened gathered to celebrate 10 years since graduation. Vincent Vale stood near the bar, champagne untouched, watching his girlfriend of 7 years laugh with old classmates, her light affinity aura making her skin shimmer like she was carved from moonstone. Beautiful. Unreachable. Always looking past him. Then Arya's phone buzzed. Her entire body shifted, spine straightening like she'd been struck by lightning. Vincent knew that reaction. He'd watched it for 7 years, the way her breath caught, pupils dilated, fingers trembling as she opened the message. Lucas Hahn. The name that haunted their relationship like a ghost neither of them acknowledged. Tonight, Vincent had a ring in his pocket worth 3 months' salary. Tonight was supposed to change everything. Instead, Arya was already typing back, her smile transforming into something Vincent had never seen her wear for him, pure, unguarded joy. "I need to step outside," she whispered, not even looking at him as she moved toward the balcony. Vincent's chest tightened. The champagne glass in his hand grew heavier, the stem creaking under pressure he didn't realize he was applying. Around him, the polished marble floor groaned softly, hairline fractures spreading from his feet like frost on glass. No one noticed. They never did. He'd been hiding for so long, everyone forgot to look. The thing about being a Vale was that people expected you to dominate every room you entered. Vincent's mother, Diane Vale, commanded boardrooms with the same ruthless precision she used to channel her wind core cultivation, decisive, elegant, absolute. His father had built Vale Consortium from a single mana mining operation into a billion-dollar empire controlling 70% of North America's spirit infrastructure. Vincent was supposed to be their crown prince. Instead, at age 19, a mana storm accident near a twisted ley line had fused a gravity core into his Dantian, rare, powerful, dangerous. The Vale family healers said he could become S-rank, one of maybe 50 cultivators worldwide who could reshape battlefields with thought alone. But S-rank children disappeared in this world. Rival corporations kidnapped them. Guild alliances tried to recruit or eliminate them. Awakened clans fought wars over bloodlines that produced such talent. So his parents made a choice: seal the core, hide the heir, let him live normally until it was safe. Vincent had spent 9 years as a normal mid-tier Earth affinity cultivator, working a regular job at a mana tech firm in Boston, dating a girl who thought he was just Vincent from accounting, reliable, kind, a little boring. Safe. He'd wrapped his entire identity around being the man Arya needed. Gentle when she was stressed. Patient when she was distant. Always there, always steady, always second choice. Tonight, standing alone while she talked to another man under monolit stars, Vincent felt the seal crack. Not break. Just fracture. Like ice over deep water, holding but compromised. His cultivation stirred for the first time in 9 years, a rolling pressure in his chest that made the air feel thick. The champagne glass shattered in his hand, shards floating suspended for 3 full seconds before dropping to the floor in slow motion. A woman nearby gasped. "Did you see that?" Vincent forced himself to breathe, pulling the gravity field back inside his body. The broken glass clattered normally. His hand was bleeding, small cuts across his palm, but he barely felt it. "Sorry," he murmured, grabbing napkins. Slipped. No one questioned it. Vincent was good at being invisible. He walked to the bathroom, running cold water over his hand while staring at his reflection. 28 years old. Clean black hair. Tired dark eyes. Average build hidden under a simple gray suit that cost $150, a fraction of what anyone else here wore. He looked exactly like what Arya thought he was, a nice guy who tried hard and never quite measured up. His phone buzzed. Quinn Hayes, his only real friend at the firm. "Quinn, dude, you good? Saw you bolt. Did something happen with Arya?" Vincent typed one-handed. "Nothing new. Same old." "Quinn, that's not an answer. You gonna propose tonight?" Vincent was planning to. Quinn was? Past tense? "Man, talk to me." Vincent looked at the ring box in his jacket pocket. White gold band with a small diamond, nothing flashy because Arya always said she preferred subtle elegance. He'd saved for 8 months, researching settings and cuts, making sure everything was perfect. The box felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. "Vincent, she's talking to Lucas. Again." "Quinn, the lightning guy? Didn't she date him in college?" Vincent, "No. She wanted to. He never noticed her." "Quinn, so why is she still, Quinn, wait. Are you seriously about to propose to someone who's still hung up on another dude?" Vincent didn't answer. He cleaned his hand, wrapped it in paper towels, and walked back into the reunion hall. Arya was still on the balcony, Phone pressed to her ear now, laughing at something Lucas said. Vincent could see her through the glass doors, could see the way she touched her hair, the way she leaned against the railing like gravity itself bent toward whoever was on the other end of that call. He'd seen this exact posture 100 times. At her birthday dinners when Lucas sent a gift. At company events when someone mentioned his name. In bed at night when she scrolled through old photos and thought Vincent was asleep. 7 years of being the man who was there while she waited for someone else. Vincent walked to the bar, ordered whiskey instead of champagne. The bartender, a water affinity cultivator whose badge read Clearwater Catering, poured 2 fingers of Macallan into a crystal tumbler. Rough night? The man asked. You could say that. Girl trouble? Vincent almost laughed. Something like that. My advice? If she's not choosing you, stop choosing her. Life's too short to be someone's backup plan. The words hit like a physical blow. Vincent downed the whiskey in one swallow, feeling it burn down his throat, then set the glass down harder than intended. The marble countertop cracked, a single hairline fracture spreading 6 inches from where the glass made contact. The bartender stared. Sir, are you? I'll pay for damages. Vincent pulled out his wallet, dropped $200 bills on the bar. Sorry. He turned to leave just as Arya came back inside, phone finally away, her face flushed with whatever Lucas had said. She spotted Vincent and smiled, that practiced, affectionate smile she wore when she remembered he existed. Sorry about that, she said, sliding her arm through his. One of my old study partners called. Lucas Hahn. Her smile faltered. How did you? You say his name in your sleep sometimes. Silence. The reunion crowd swirled around them, people laughing and drinking and showing off minor cultivation tricks, small flames, water orbs, levitating phones. Standard mid-tier showing off. Vincent, that's not fair. What did he want? Arya's jaw tightened. He's in town for work. Asked if I wanted to grab coffee. And you said yes. I said maybe. She pulled away slightly. God, why are you being like this? He's just an old friend. Is he? What's that supposed to mean? Vincent looked at her, really looked. At the woman he'd restructured his entire life around. The woman he'd moved to Boston for, turned down promotions for, lied to his family for. The woman who'd never once asked about his past, his dreams, his real name. 7 years, and she'd never wondered why he had no family photos, no childhood stories, no connections to anything before college. Because she'd never looked deeper than the surface. Nothing, Vincent said finally. Forget it. No, clearly you have something to say. Arya's light affinity aura flickered, frustration making her glow brighter. If you're jealous, just admit it. I'm not jealous. Then what? I'm tired. The words came out heavier than he intended, carrying the weight of 9 years of suppressed cultivation, 7 years of one-sided love, and 1 night of watching her choose someone else in real time. The floor beneath them groaned. Several people nearby stopped talking, looking around confused. One woman's wine glass vibrated on the table, liquid sloshing. Vincent forced himself to breathe, pulling the gravity field back inside. His control was slipping. The seal his parents had placed was definitely cracked now, pressure building like a storm about to break. I need some air, he said, turning toward the exit. Arya grabbed his wrist. Vincent, wait. A drunk voice cut through the tension. Well, if it isn't the happy couple. Marcus Chen stumbled over, earth affinity aura making small pebbles float around his shoulders, a party trick that would have been impressive if he wasn't 3 sheets to the wind. He'd been in their graduating class, some kind of mid-level manager now at a construction firm that worked with awakened materials. Marcus, Arya said carefully, still holding Vincent's wrist. I gotta say, Arya, you really settled, huh? Marcus laughed, gesturing at Vincent. I mean, Lucas Hahn is in town and you're still with this guy? That's dedication. Vincent felt Arya's hand tighten on his wrist. Marcus, you're drunk. I'm honest. He swayed closer, poking Vincent's chest. No offense, man, but everyone knows you're punching way above your weight here. Mid-tier Earth guy, normal job, no family connections. He turned to Arya. Why are you still with him? Back off. Arya's voice went cold. But Marcus was on a roll, alcohol making him brave. Seriously, what does he even do for you? Lucas is S-rank potential, runs a guild division, drives a Porsche. Stop. Vincent's voice came out quiet, but the word carried physical weight. The marble floor around his feet cracked in a perfect circle, spiderweb fractures spreading outward. Marcus's floating pebbles dropped like stones. Several glasses on nearby tables shattered simultaneously. Everyone in a 15-foot radius suddenly felt heavier, like gravity had increased by 30%. Marcus tried to laugh it off but couldn't quite catch his breath. Dude, what the? Vincent reached out, placed one finger on Marcus's shoulder. Just one finger. Light pressure. Marcus's knees buckled. He dropped like someone had placed a 200-pound weight on his back, hitting the floor so hard the marble tiles beneath him cracked. He tried to push himself up and couldn't, arms shaking, face turning red as he struggled against a force he couldn't see. Vincent. Arya stepped back, eyes wide. What are you doing? Nothing. Vincent removed his finger. Instantly, the pressure vanished. Marcus gasped, rolling onto his back, staring up in confusion and terror. The entire reunion hall had gone quiet. Vincent looked around at his former classmates, people who'd spent 4 years assuming he was nobody special, who'd dated or married or networked their way up the awakened social ladder while he stayed quiet and small and safe. They were all staring now. He should have apologized. Should have helped Marcus up. Should have made some joke about mana wine and accidents. Instead, Vincent turned to Arya. I'm leaving. Wait, what? We just got here. I mean, I'm leaving Boston. Her face went pale under the mana light. You're breaking up with me? I'm going home. This is your home. We live together. Vincent pulled the ring box from his pocket, set it on the bar beside the cracked marble. I was going to propose tonight. Ask you to marry me, start a real future together. Then I watched you drop everything the second Lucas called, and I realized something. Realized what? 7 years, Arya. 7 years I've been your backup plan while you waited for him to notice you. I'm done. He turned to walk away. She grabbed his arm, and this time her light affinity flared genuinely, not anger, but panic. Vincent, please, you're misunderstanding. Am I? Then tell me right now, in front of everyone, if Lucas asked you to coffee tomorrow, would you cancel plans with me to go? Silence. The answer was written all over her face. Vincent gently pulled free of her grip. That's what I thought. Where will you go? New York. The truth felt strange on his tongue after 9 years of lies. Back to my family. You told me you didn't have family. I lied. About a lot of things. He looked at her one last time, at the woman who'd held his heart for 7 years without ever really holding him. Goodbye, Arya. He walked out of the reunion hall while she stood frozen, the ring box glinting on the bar between broken marble and spilled champagne, $3,000 worth of hope he'd been carrying for months. Behind him, he heard her start to cry. He didn't turn around. The elevator ride down from the reunion hall's 30th floor felt endless. Vincent leaned against the brushed steel wall, feeling the seal on his gravity core continue to crack, not breaking completely, but definitely compromised. His cultivation was waking up whether he wanted it to or not. The ring of his phone made him flinch. Mom, your father felt something shift. What happened? Of course. S-rank cultivators could sense major disturbances in ambient mana from hundreds of miles away. His father's wind core was probably already triangulating his location. Vincent, the seal cracked. I'm coming home. Mom, what triggered it? Vincent, does it matter? Mom, Vincent Alexander Vale, answer the question. He stared at his phone, then typed, I broke up with Arya. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, good. She was holding you back. Come home. Your room is ready. The elevator reached the ground floor. Vincent stepped out into Boston's monolith streets, skyscrapers pulsing with contained energy, ley line intersections marked by glowing street lamps, awakened advertisements floating in holographic arrays above the financial district. He'd lived here for 9 years pretending to be normal. He was done pretending. Vincent hailed a cab, old-fashioned, non-mana powered, because he didn't trust himself around technology that responded to cultivation right now. The driver, an older man who barely glanced at him, pulled away from the curb. Where to? Airport. Which one? Logan or the private strip? Private. The driver's eyes flicked to the rearview mirror, reassessing. You got a plane waiting or you chartering? There's always a plane waiting. It was the truth. Vale Consortium maintained 3 private jets in Boston alone, positioned for corporate emergencies or family extraction. Vincent hadn't used them in 9 years, but his mother kept them fueled and ready regardless. His phone buzzed again. Quinn, dude, what the hell happened? People are saying you put Marcus through the floor with one finger. Vincent, he was drunk. He fell. Quinn, Vincent. The floor cracked in a perfect circle around you. I saw the video someone posted. That wasn't Earth Affinity. That was something else. Vincent, I'm leaving town. Quinn, what? Quinn, is this about Arya? Vincent, It's about a lot of things. I'll explain later. Quinn, you better. And hey, whatever you're going through, you know I'm here, right? Vincent smiled despite everything. I know. Thanks. He put his phone away and watched Boston slide past the windows, the city where he'd tried to build a normal life with a woman who never fully wanted him. Every street corner held memories. The coffee shop where they'd had their first date. The park where they'd spent Sunday mornings. The apartment building they shared, where he'd spent 7 years sleeping next to someone who dreamed of someone else. The cab pulled up to a private airstrip on the edge of the city, where a sleek Gulfstream G650 sat waiting, Vail Consortium's logo subtle but unmistakable on the tail. Vincent paid the driver $500 for a $50 fare. Keep the change. Sir, this is. I know what it is. Vincent grabbed his jacket from the back seat. He hadn't packed. Hadn't thought that far ahead. He'd just left. 9 years of his life in Boston, abandoned in one night because of a phone call and a smile that was never meant for him. A woman in a sharp black suit stood at the bottom of the plane stairs. Mr. Vail. Welcome home. The words hit him like a physical thing. Mr. Vail. Not Vincent from accounting. Not Arya's boyfriend. Not the quiet guy who kept his head down. Vincent Vail. Heir to a billion-dollar empire. Future chairman of Vail Consortium. The man he'd been hiding from for 9 years because his parents said it was safer. Thank you, he said, climbing the stairs. The plane's interior was exactly as he remembered, cream leather seats, mahogany tables, a full bar, and a bedroom in the back. The pilot, a wind affinity cultivator who'd been flying for the family since before Vincent was born, nodded from the cockpit. New York, sir? New York. ETA 2 hours. Your mother asked me to let her know the moment you boarded. Vincent settled into a window seat. Tell her I'm fine. Will do. We'll be wheels up in 5 minutes. The plane taxied smoothly, Boston's lights receding behind them. Vincent pulled out his phone, scrolling through 7 years of messages with Arya, thousands of texts, photos, voice notes. Evidence of a relationship that had always been one-sided, if he was honest with himself. He started to type a message. Deleted it. Started again. Deleted again. What was there to say that he hadn't already said? Instead, he opened his banking app, transferring $50,000 to Quinn's account with a note, "Take care of my half of rent until the lease is up. The rest is for putting up with my emotional baggage for 2 years. Thanks for being a real friend." Then he blocked Arya's number. Not out of anger. Not even out of hurt, really. Just necessity. He needed to cut the weight that had been holding him down for 7 years, and she was the heaviest chain he carried. His gravity core pulsed in his dantian, responding to the decision like it had been waiting for this moment. The seal cracked wider. Not broken, still holding, but definitely failing. Vincent closed his eyes, feeling the plane lift off, feeling Boston fall away beneath him, feeling the man he'd pretended to be finally die so the man he actually was could breathe. Somewhere below, Arya was probably still at the reunion, explaining to people what had happened. Probably calling Lucas, crying to him about the boyfriend who'd just walked away. Vincent didn't care anymore. For the first time in 7 years, he was choosing himself. And the weight of that choice felt like freedom. The Gulfstream descended through New York's night sky, the city sprawling below like a circuit board of light and power. Vincent pressed his forehead against the cool window, watching the familiar skyline emerge, the Empire State Building glowing with contained mana, the Freedom Tower spire crackling with ambient energy from the massive ley line intersection beneath Manhattan. He'd been gone 9 years. The city looked the same but felt different, like coming home to a house where all the furniture had been rearranged. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Unknown, 7 years wasn't enough? You really think running away solves anything? Arya. She must have gotten a new number or borrowed someone's phone after he blocked her. Unknown, Lucas said he'd meet me for coffee. He said yes, Vincent. After all these years, he finally sees me. Vincent stared at the message, waiting for the knife of jealousy to twist in his chest. Nothing came. Just emptiness. Like cutting a rope that had been pulling him underwater for so long he'd forgotten what it felt like to breathe normally. He deleted the message without responding. The pilot's voice crackled over the intercom. Mr. Vail, we're beginning our descent into Teterboro. Your mother asked me to inform you that the car will be waiting on the tarmac, but, a pause. Sir, we're getting some unusual readings on the ground. Enhanced security measures are in place. What kind of readings? Multiple awakened signatures. 20+ individuals in a perimeter around our designated hangar. Could be a welcoming committee, but it could be a hit squad. Vincent's voice came out flat, years of corporate warfare training from his childhood flooding back. How many do you read as S rank or higher? At least 3, sir. Possibly 4. Vincent's gravity core pulsed, pressure building in his chest like a coiled spring. The seal his parents had placed was barely holding now, hairline fractures spreading through the formation with each beat of his heart. Tell my mother I'm aware of the situation. Standard protocols. Copy that, sir. The plane touched down smoothly, taxiing toward a private hangar far from the main terminal. Through the window, Vincent could see the welcoming committee figures in dark suits positioned at strategic intervals, their awakened auras barely suppressed, creating heat distortions in the cold night air. This wasn't a homecoming. This was a declaration of war. Vincent stood, rolling his shoulders, feeling his cultivation stir for the first time with intent rather than emotion. 9 years of suppression had left his control rusty, but the fundamentals were still there, breathing techniques his mother had drilled into him before the sealing, combat theory his father had insisted he memorize even while hidden. The plane's door opened. Cold November air rushed in, carrying the sharp ozone scent of multiple cultivators holding techniques at the ready. Vincent descended the stairs, each step measured, controlled. The tarmac was empty except for the dark figures in the perimeter, and a single black Mercedes S-Class idling near the hangar entrance, where a woman in an impeccable charcoal suit stood waiting. Not his mother. Too young, mid-30s maybe, with sharp features and an ice affinity aura that made frost patterns crawl across the car's hood. Mr. Vale, she called out, voice carrying despite the wind. Welcome home. I'm Sarah Chen, head of Vale Consortium Security. Your mother asked me to escort you personally. Vincent kept walking, eyes scanning the perimeter. 23 awakened signatures, he counted. Most mid-tier, a handful high-tier. And 4 that made his cultivation instinctively recoil, genuine S-rank pressure, barely contained. I don't recognize you, Vincent said, stopping 10 feet from the car. I was hired 3 years ago. After the Shanghai incident. Sarah's expression remained neutral, but her eyes were sharp, assessing. Your mother wanted fresh blood. Someone without connections to the old families. The old families who are currently surrounding us? Eclipse Holdings, mostly. With support from Thunderborn Guild and the Summers Consortium. She gestured subtly toward different sections of the perimeter. They're here to verify your identity. Make sure the Veil heir really has returned. And if I'm not who they think I am? Then you're just some random cultivator arriving on a private jet, and they leave peacefully. Sarah's lips quirked. But we both know that's not true, don't we? Before Vincent could respond, the closest figure in the perimeter, a man in a dark overcoat with lightning crackling around his fingertips, stepped forward. Vincent Vale. The man's voice boomed with amplified chi, making the air vibrate. Son of Alexander Vale and Diane Chen Vale. Sealed at age 19 after manifesting a rare gravity core. Hidden in Boston under the alias Vincent Marsh for 9 years. Is that correct? Every word was a nail in a coffin. They knew everything. Someone had leaked his identity, his location, his entire history. Vincent met the man's eyes. Who's asking? Marcus Thorne, second enforcer of Eclipse Holdings. Lightning intensified around his hands, the smell of ozone growing stronger. Answer the question. And if I don't? Then we assume you're an imposter using the Veil name, and we're authorized to detain you for questioning. Thorne's smile was predatory. Authorized by New York's Awakened Regulatory Commission, fully legal. Though I imagine the questioning would be thorough. Sarah shifted beside the car, her ice affinity flaring. Mr. Thorne, you're on Veil Consortium property. Any attempt to detain Mr. Vale would constitute an act of aggression. We're on Teterboro Airport property, Ms. Chen. Neutral ground. Thorne took another step forward. Now, Mr. Vale, if that's really who you are, I suggest you cooperate. This can be simple, or it can be painful. Vincent felt his gravity core surge, responding to the threat. The seal cracked audibly, a sound like breaking glass that only cultivators could hear. Pressure radiated outward from his body in a wave, making the tarmac beneath his feet groan. Several of the perimeter figures stumbled, caught off guard. Thorne's smile widened. There it is. Gravity core manifestation. Well then, Mr. Vale, now that we've confirmed your identity. The hangar exploded. Not literally. But the massive door blew outward as something inside detonated, fire and shrapnel erupting into the night. Vincent's instinct screamed, his gravity core flaring automatically, creating a spherical field that caught debris midair and crushed it to powder. Sarah was already moving, ice forming a protective dome around the Mercedes. And then they came, figures in white masks and tactical gear, pouring out of the burning hangar like a flood. 30, 40, 50. Professional. Coordinated. Each one radiating at least mid-tier cultivation. Ambush. Someone in the perimeter shouted. But these newcomers weren't attacking the perimeter. They were attacking Vincent. The first wave hit his gravity field and slammed to the ground like they'd been swatted by an invisible hand, bones breaking audibly. The second wave tried to flank, only to find themselves suddenly weighing 800 pounds each, legs buckling under impossible pressure. Vincent's seal fractured wider. Power flooded his meridians, raw and uncontrolled, 9 years of suppressed cultivation trying to force its way out all at once. Bad. This was very bad. Mr. Vale. Sarah was screaming something, but Vincent couldn't hear over the roaring in his ears, his own heartbeat amplified by his gravity core, each pulse sending another wave of pressure across the tarmac. A masked assassin made it through the field somehow, chi-reinforced body allowing him to move in slow motion through the crushing weight. He raised a gun, not a regular weapon, but a mana pistol loaded with spirit-piercing rounds capable of cracking a cultivator's core. Vincent reacted on instinct. He didn't just increase gravity. He reversed it. The assassin shot upward like a rocket, 15 feet, 20, 30, then Vincent flipped the field again, slamming him down with 10 times normal force. The man hit the tarmac so hard he created a crater, unconscious or dead. More were coming. Vincent could feel them, awakened signatures converging from every direction, some hostile, some probably Vale security, too many to track individually. His vision was starting to blur, the seal on his core completely shattered now, power leaking out in uncontrolled bursts. The entire section of tarmac around him was buckling, asphalt cracking in concentric circles, light poles bending like they were made of rubber. Vincent, stop. The voice cut through the chaos like a knife, familiar, authoritative, carrying the weight of genuine S-rank cultivation. His mother. Diane Chen Vale dropped from the sky like a meteorite, her wind core cultivation wrapping around her invisible currents of compressed air. She landed between Vincent and the assassins, one hand already weaving a complex formation in the air with glowing blue chi. Sleep, my son, she said gently. The formation struck Vincent's chest like a physical blow, bypassing his gravity field entirely. It was a mother's technique, keyed specifically to his chi signature, impossible to defend against. His gravity core stuttered, the pressure cutting off abruptly. Vincent's knees buckled. His father caught him before he hit the ground. When had he arrived? Strong arms wrapping around his shoulders as Vincent's consciousness started to fade. Easy, Alexander Vale murmured. You did well. Better than I expected. Vincent tried to focus on his father's face, silver-streaked black hair, sharp features, eyes that held pride rather than disappointment. Behind him, the assassins who were still standing were being systematically frozen in place by walls of ice that Sarah was constructing with ruthless efficiency. The seal. Vincent managed to croak out. Gone, his mother confirmed, kneeling beside him while maintaining the suppression formation. Your core fully awakened. 5 seconds of uncontrolled S-rank output before I could contain it. She looked at the devastation around them, crushed assassins, cratered tarmac, bent metal. 23 hostiles neutralized. 0 Vale casualties. Not bad for your first real fight. The ambush. Eclipse Holdings. His father's voice went cold. Thorne and his people provided cover for the real attack. They wanted to test you, see if the rumors were true. Now they know. Vincent's vision was tunneling, the suppression formation pulling him toward unconsciousness. What happens now? His mother smiled, but it wasn't kind. It was the smile of a woman who'd built an empire from nothing and crushed anyone who stood in her way. Now? Now the world knows Vincent Vale is back. The sealed heir of Vale Consortium. S-rank gravity cultivator. She brushed hair from his forehead. And now we show them exactly what that means. Darkness took him. Vincent woke to the smell of jasmine tea and expensive leather. His childhood bedroom. He recognized it before opening his eyes, the texture of the sheets, the slight hum of the building's mana circulation array, the particular quality of silence that came from being on the 78th floor of Vale Tower. He sat up slowly, expecting pain from the forced suppression. Instead, he felt incredible. Clear-headed. Energized. His cultivation flowed smoothly through his meridians, no longer fighting against a seal, no longer compressed and suffocated. Free. The bedroom door opened. His mother entered carrying a tray with tea and what looked like recovery pills, small jade-colored spheres that glowed faintly with concentrated mana. Drink first. Questions after. Diane set the tray on his bedside table. You've been unconscious for 6 hours. Your body needed time to adjust to the sudden release. Vincent accepted the tea, the warmth spreading through him immediately. Recovery blend, infused with spirit herbs that probably cost more per ounce than most people made in a month. The airport? Cleaned up. 23 Eclipse assassins in custody, though they'll claim they were rogue elements acting without authorization. His mother sat in the chair by the window, her own tea appearing in her hand from a spatial ring. Marcus Thorne is dead. He tried to attack you while you were unconscious. Your father removed his head. The casual way she said it, like discussing quarterly earnings rather than execution, reminded Vincent exactly what world he'd returned to. Eclipse will retaliate. Undoubtedly. They've already filed complaints with the Awakened Regulatory Commission, claiming we used excessive force. She sipped her tea. We filed counter-complaints about the assassination attempt. It'll be tied up in committee for months, which gives us time to prepare. Prepare for what? War, Vincent. His mother met his eyes. Not the shooting kind, at least not yet. Corporate warfare. They know you're back now, and they know your S rank. That makes you a threat to every family that's been trying to erode our market share while you were hidden. Vincent processed this, memories of corporate strategy lessons from his childhood filtering back. How many are actively hostile? Eclipse Holdings, definitely. They've been trying to force a merger for 5 years. She counted on her fingers. Thunderborn Guild, Lucas Hahn's organization, has requested a formal meeting, which means they're either planning an alliance or an elimination. Summers Consortium is watching and waiting. And then there's the Reed family. Vincent's hand tightened on his teacup. Arya's family? They reached out this morning. Very interested in reconnecting now that they know who you really are. His mother's expression was unreadable. Apparently, your relationship with their daughter could be valuable for certain business arrangements. The implications made Vincent's stomach turn. They want to use her to manipulate me. Of course they do. You're unmarried, recently heartbroken, and now revealed as one of the most eligible bachelors in the awakened world. They'll throw Arya at you, probably with some tragic story about how she's realized her mistake. She paused. Will it work? No. You're certain? Vincent thought about the ring box on the bar, about 7 years of being second choice, about the text message Arya had sent while he was flying home. I'm certain. His mother smiled, genuine this time. Good. Because you're already engaged. Vincent nearly dropped his tea. What? Arranged marriage. Contract signed when you were 19, before the sealing. Your father and I negotiated it with the Taylor family, old awakened bloodline, excellent business connections, daughter roughly your age. She pulled out her phone, showing him a photo. Celine Taylor. Healing Affinity Cultivation, MBA from Wharton, currently CFO of Taylor Enterprises. The woman in the photo was beautiful in a completely different way from Arya, tall, elegant, with sharp intelligent eyes and an expression that suggested she didn't suffer fools. She wore a dark blue business suit, standing in what looked like a boardroom, every inch a professional. She knows about me? She knows you exist, that you were sealed for safety, and that the engagement would activate when you returned. His mother put the phone away. Whether she's happy about it is another question. The Taylor family is traditional, they believe in honoring contracts. But Celine herself is pragmatic. Meaning? Meaning she'll meet you, assess whether this arrangement serves her interests, and decide accordingly. His mother stood, smoothing her suit. You're meeting her tomorrow. Dinner at Clearwater Springs, the Taylor estate in Connecticut. Your father and I will accompany you for the formal introduction. Vincent's head was spinning. 6 hours ago, he'd been unconscious on a tarmac. Now he was engaged to a woman he'd never met, preparing for corporate warfare against multiple families, and apparently expected to just adapt. What if I refuse? Refuse what? The engagement? The return to Vale Consortium? Your responsibility as heir? His mother's voice went sharp. Vincent, you spent 9 years hiding, and I respected that. Your father and I agreed you needed time to grow without the pressure of this world. But the seal is broken now. You're fully awakened. The entire corporate landscape knows you exist. You can't hide anymore. I'm not asking to hide. I'm asking if I have a choice. You always have a choice. She moved to the door, paused. But choices have consequences. If you walk away from Vale Consortium, from your position as heir, from the engagement, what then? Go back to Boston? Work your mid-level job? Watch Arya marry Lucas Hahn? The words landed like physical blows. Or, his mother continued, you step into your real life. Use the power you've been given. Build something that matters. And maybe, just maybe, find out who Vincent Vale actually is when he's not hiding or shrinking himself for someone else's comfort. She left him alone with that thought. Vincent sat in silence, drinking his tea, watching New York wake up beyond his window. 78 floors below, the city moved, millions of people pursuing their own ambitions, their own dreams, their own wars. He'd left Boston to escape one relationship. Apparently, he'd returned to New York to begin another. But this time, at least, everyone involved knew exactly what they were getting into. No more hiding. No more seals. No more pretending to be someone he wasn't. Vincent Vale, heir to Vale Consortium, S-rank gravity cultivator. Time to see what that actually meant. The Vale Consortium headquarters occupied the top 15 floors of Vale Tower, a gleaming spire of steel and reinforced spirit glass that dominated the Manhattan skyline. Vincent's father maintained the executive floors on 78 through 85, his mother controlled operations on 86 through 90, and the top 2 floors were reserved for board meetings and the chairman's residence. Vincent spent his first day back touring the empire he'd inherit. His escort was a young man named David Chen, no relation to his mother, despite the shared surname, who'd been with the company for 3 years and seemed genuinely excited to meet the mysterious heir everyone had whispered about. "So it's true?" David asked as they rode the elevator to floor 83. "You really were sealed for 9 years?" "It's true. That must have been awful. Knowing you had power but not being able to use it. It was necessary." Vincent watched the floor numbers climb. "Safer for everyone." "Yeah, but still," David hesitated. "Can I ask what it's like?" "The gravity core, I mean. I've only got mid-tier water affinity, so I can't really imagine S-rank cultivation." Vincent considered the question. "Imagine every object around you as weight you can feel, like they're all connected to you by invisible strings. And you can pull those strings, make things heavier or lighter, change how gravity affects them. It's overwhelming, honestly. Especially after being sealed for so long." "Can you show me?" "Show you?" David gestured around the elevator. "Something small? I mean, if it's not inappropriate or..." Vincent held out his hand. A pen floated up from David's breast pocket, suspended in the air between them. He made it rotate slowly, then orbit around David's head like a tiny moon, before dropping it back into the pocket. David's eyes were huge. That was incredible. That was basic manipulation. Party trick level. Vincent shrugged. "The real applications are in combat and construction. I can make a building heavier so it's harder to damage, or lighter so it's easier to move. In a fight, I can pin opponents to the ground or send them flying." "And that's what you did at the airport? I heard you took down 23 assassins in under a minute." "Something like that." Vincent didn't mention the lack of control, the way his power had surged uncontrollably, almost killing people before his mother stepped in. "I'm still learning to use it properly. 9 years sealed means 9 years without practice." The elevator opened onto floor 83, the Strategic Planning Division. Maps covered the walls, holographic displays showing mono-ley line networks across North America, Asia, Europe. Employees looked up as Vincent entered, then immediately returned to work, though he felt their curious stares following him. David led him through the floor, explaining operations. "This is where we monitor our competitors, track market movements, plan acquisitions. Your mother oversees most of it, but your father makes final calls on major decisions." "And where do I fit in?" "That's..." David looked uncomfortable. "Honestly, sir, no one really knows yet. You've been gone so long, and there's no precedent for an S-rank heir joining the company mid-career. Usually, cultivation and business training happen simultaneously from childhood. But I was sealed at 19, so I missed all of that." "Exactly. Which means you've got the power but not necessarily the experience. Some of the board members are concerned about that." Vincent stopped walking. "Who specifically?" David glanced around, lowered his voice. "Thomas Blackwell, head of finance. Margaret Frost, legal division. A few others. They're worried you'll be too volatile. That your cultivation will make you act rashly, damage the company's reputation. They think I'm dangerous. They think you're powerful, which in this world amounts to the same thing." David met his eyes. "Sir, if I can be honest, I think they're wrong. But you're going to have to prove it." The elevator ride continued. Floor 84 was research and development, where scientists worked on integrating awakened abilities with technology. Floor 85 was the executive suite, where Vincent's father's office occupied an entire corner with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Alexander Vale sat behind a desk carved from a single piece of spirit wood, its surface gleaming with embedded mana formations. He looked up as Vincent entered, dismissing David with a nod. "How was the tour?" "Educational." Vincent took a seat across from his father. "Apparently, the board thinks I'm a liability. The board thinks anyone with S-rank power is a liability until proven otherwise. It's not personal." Alexander stood, moving to the windows. I brought you here to discuss your role moving forward. Mother mentioned something about corporate war. Eclipse Holdings is the immediate threat. They've been trying to force a merger for years, and with you revealed, they'll either accelerate their hostile takeover attempts or try to eliminate you as a bargaining chip. His father turned. But that's just one problem. We have others. He pulled up a holographic display, showing a complex network of companies, families, and guilds. The Mana City Project. Are you familiar with it? I've heard rumors. New urban development somewhere in the Midwest, built entirely on awakened infrastructure. More than rumors. It's real, and it's the biggest project in awakened history. Whoever controls the majority stake will dominate North American mana markets for the next century. Alexander pointed to different nodes in the network. Veil Consortium currently holds 18%. Eclipse has 22%. Thunderborn Guild has 15%. Summers Consortium has 12%. The remaining 33% is divided among smaller families and independent investors. So it's a race to acquire controlling interest. Exactly. And every family is using every tool available: business deals, political pressure, arranged marriages, espionage, assassination. His father's expression was grim. Your relationship with Arya Reed? That was never coincidental. Vincent felt cold. What do you mean? The Reed family has been trying to establish connections with Veil Consortium for years. When you enrolled at Boston University under your alias, they must have identified you despite the seal, probably through facial recognition or cultivation signature analysis. They put Arya in your path deliberately. The words felt like being punched. You're saying our entire relationship was staged? I'm saying it started that way. Whether real feelings developed later, Alexander shrugged. Only you and she know that. But the initial contact? Calculated. Vincent thought back to their first meeting in the campus library, how Arya had approached him seemingly at random, how she'd been so interested despite him being completely ordinary. Had it all been an act? Why didn't you tell me? Because you were sealed and hidden. We assumed the Reed family would lose interest once they realized you couldn't access your cultivation. His father sat back down. We were wrong. They played the long game, keeping Arya close for 7 years, waiting for the seal to break naturally or for us to bring you home. And now they want to use her to manipulate me into supporting their interests in the Mana City project. Precisely. They'll offer her to you, probably with full knowledge of the arranged engagement to Celine Taylor. They'll suggest you could have both, Arya as your mistress, Celine as your official wife. Very traditional awakened family arrangement. The idea made Vincent sick. I'm not interested. Good. Alexander smiled slightly. Because the Taylor engagement is strategically critical. Their family controls 3% of the Mana City project, and their CFO daughter has connections with another 8% through business relationships. Marry her, combine our holdings, and we jump to nearly 30%, close enough to blocking position against Eclipse. So my marriage is just another business deal. Every awakened marriage is a business deal, Vincent. The question is whether it's also something more. His father's expression softened. Your mother and I started as an arranged engagement too. We were strangers, expected to produce an heir and strengthen our family's alliance. But we chose to build something real within that framework. How long did that take? Years. Marriage is a long game. Alexander stood again, signaling the conversation was ending. Meet Celine tomorrow with an open mind. She's intelligent, capable, and by all accounts fair. You could do much worse. Vincent left his father's office with his head spinning. 2 days ago, he'd been planning to propose to Arya. Now he was engaged to a stranger, learning his entire relationship had been a manipulation, and being positioned as a piece in corporate warfare he barely understood. His phone buzzed. Quinn, dude, I just saw the news. Mystery heir of Veil Consortium revealed after assassination attempt. That's you, isn't it? Vincent, yeah. It's me. Quinn, dude. You're a billionaire heir? And you let me pay for drinks? Quinn, wait, more importantly, are you okay? The news said 23 attackers. Vincent, I'm fine. They're not. Quinn, that's the most badass text I've ever received. But seriously, man, what the hell? You were hiding all of this while dating Arya and working at our boring company? Vincent, it's complicated. I'll explain when I can. Quinn, you better. Also, Arya's been calling me nonstop asking where you are. I haven't told her anything, but she's pretty desperate. Vincent, good. Keep it that way. Quinn, noted. Hey, one more thing, do you need a personal assistant? Because I'm suddenly very interested in career opportunities at Veil Consortium. Despite everything, Vincent smiled. I'll think about it. He pocketed his phone and headed toward the executive gym on floor 86. If he was going to navigate this world, corporate warfare, cultivation politics, arranged marriages, he needed to be sharp. Both mentally and physically. Time to stop being Vincent who hides and start being Vincent who fights. Vincent stood in the Vale Tower briefing room at 6 in the morning, still adjusting to the fact that his schedule was no longer his own. 3 days back in New York, and he'd already attended 2 board meetings, reviewed 400 pages of corporate documentation, and endured exactly 17 conversations where people pretended they weren't afraid of him. His father stood at the head of the conference table, holographic displays floating around him showing topographical maps and cultivation signatures. His mother sat to the right, perfectly composed despite the early hour. 5 board members filled the remaining seats: Thomas Blackwell, Margaret Frost, and 3 others whose names Vincent was still learning. The Chen family, Alexander said, gesturing to a display showing a modest estate in rural Pennsylvania. Independent Awakened clan, 4th-generation landholders, sitting on a property that happens to intersect 3 major ley lines. They control 5% of the Mana City project through ancestral land rights. Margaret Frost, a sharp-featured woman in her 60s with ice affinity that made Frost crawl up her water glass, leaned forward. 5% doesn't sound significant. It is when you're racing to 30%, Diane replied. Eclipse Holdings is at 22, we're at 18. Acquiring the Chen family's stake puts us at 23, ahead of Eclipse for the first time in 2 years. Thomas Blackwell, heavy-set with earth affinity that made the floor beneath him subtly more stable, frowned. We've been courting the Chen family for 8 months. Why haven't they signed? Because Eclipse has been making competing offers, Alexander said. Better financial terms, more security guarantees, political connections the Chen family lacks. They're scheduled to make their final decision in 3 days. So we sweeten our offer, Blackwell suggested. No. Alexander's voice was firm. We send Vincent. The room went silent. Vincent felt all eyes turn to him. He'd been standing near the windows, half listening while trying to drink terrible conference room coffee, and now he was suddenly the center of attention. With respect, sir, Margaret began carefully, your son has been back for 72 hours. He has no negotiation experience, no established relationships in the awakened community, and, forgive me, a reputation for volatility after the airport incident. Which is exactly why he's perfect for this, Diane said, her tone suggesting the matter was already decided. The Chen family doesn't care about polished negotiation. They care about strength and authenticity. Vincent represents both. He represents risk, Blackwell countered. If he fails, we lose our shot at the Chen stake and look weak in the process. If he succeeds through intimidation or violence, we confirm every fear about S-rank cultivators being unstable. Then he'll have to succeed through competence. Alexander looked at Vincent. You leave this afternoon. David Chen will accompany you as liaison. Minimal escort, 3 security personnel, all mid-tier. I want you to win this contract without overwhelming them with Vale resources. Vincent set down his coffee. What's Eclipse sending? Full negotiation team. Financial analysts, legal experts, and, Alexander's expression darkened slightly. Lucas Hahn. The name hit Vincent like cold water. The lightning prodigy? Margaret looked surprised. I thought he was just guild enforcement. Since when does Thunderborn involve itself in Eclipse negotiations? Since Eclipse formed a strategic partnership with them 2 months ago, Diane explained. Lucas represents the guild's interests in the Mana City project. His presence at the Chen estate is meant to demonstrate unified corporate guild support. Very intimidating for an independent family. Vincent's jaw tightened. Lucas. The man Arya had waited 7 years for. Now he'd be facing him in a business negotiation while probably still thinking about the coffee date Arya had mentioned. Perfect. What's the real problem? Vincent asked, pulling his focus back. You said Eclipse has been making better offers for 8 months, yet the Chen family hasn't signed. Why? His father smiled slightly, the first sign of approval Vincent had seen. That's the right question. Thomas? Blackwell pulled up geological surveys. The Chen ancestral property sits on 3 ley lines, but the convergence point has been destabilizing for the past year. Minor earthquakes, mana fluctuations, spirit beast activity increasing. Eclipse's offer includes security teams and protective formations, but formations can be broken, Vincent finished. Security teams can be bribed or killed. They need something permanent. Exactly. The Chen family patriarch is old school. He believes in blood, land, and cultivation, in that order. He won't sign with anyone who can't guarantee his family's safety on their ancestral grounds. Vincent studied the geological surveys, his gravity core instincts picking up patterns in the ley line data. The destabilization isn't random. The 3 ley lines are pulling in slightly different directions, creating tension at the convergence point. Like 3 ropes tied to the same anchor, each pulling a different way. Can you fix it? His mother asked quietly. I don't know. Vincent was honest. I'd have to see it in person, feel the flow. But theoretically? Gravity manipulation should be able to rebalance the pressure, create a stable anchor point where the ley lines converge. Theoretically, Blackwell repeated. And if you're wrong? Then the ley line convergence collapses completely, probably taking the Chen estate and several square miles of surrounding land with it in a catastrophic monostorm. Vincent met the older man's eyes. But if I do nothing and Eclipse's formations fail, the same thing happens anyway. At least my way, they see a Veil taking personal risk for their family. Margaret's expression softened slightly. That's surprisingly strategic thinking. I had good teachers. Vincent glanced at his parents. When do I leave? 2 hours. David is already preparing. Alexander stood, ending the meeting. Vincent, a word. The board members filed out, leaving Vincent alone with his father in the briefing room. Lucas Hahn will try to provoke you, Alexander said without preamble. He knows about Arya, probably knows she was using you for Reed family interests. He'll use that to make you look emotional, unstable. I know. Do you? Because 3 days ago, you shattered a runway trying to control your cultivation. Today, you'll be standing across from the man your ex-girlfriend loved while trying to close a deal worth hundreds of millions of dollars. His father's gaze was piercing. Can you handle that? Vincent thought about Arya's text message, about 7 years of being second choice, about the ring box he'd left on a bar in Boston. I'm not the same person I was 3 days ago. Prove it. Win this contract, show the board you're more than raw power. Alexander moved toward the door, paused. And Vincent? Don't kill Lucas Hahn. No matter how satisfying it might be. We need Thunderborn Guild as potential allies, not guaranteed enemies. Understood. His father left, and Vincent was alone with holographic displays showing the Chen estate, rolling Pennsylvania hills, a modest manor house, and 3 glowing ley lines converging like rivers of liquid light beneath the earth. His phone buzzed. Quinn, for the 3rd time that morning. Quinn, okay, I've been researching and dude. Your family owns like half of the awakened infrastructure in North America. How did I work next to you for 2 years and not know? Vincent, I was good at hiding. Quinn, no kidding. Also, I saw photos from your assassination attempt. You folded those guys like origami. It was terrifying and awesome. Vincent, thanks. Quinn, so here's a weird question, is it true you're engaged to some CFO from a billion-dollar family? Because the awakened gossip sites are going insane. Vincent stared at that message. The awakened gossip sites. Of course those existed. Vincent, it's complicated. Quinn, everything about your life is complicated. Hey, serious question, do you need someone you can trust? Because I'm great at research, I already know all your emotional baggage, and I'm willing to relocate to New York for the right salary. Vincent, are you seriously applying to be my assistant via text message? Quinn, is it working? Despite the stress, Vincent smiled. I'll talk to HR. No promises. Quinn, yes. Okay, go do your billionaire stuff. Don't let Lightning McHandsome intimidate you. Vincent pocketed his phone and headed for his quarters to pack. Lightning McHandsome. If Quinn knew the full story, he'd probably find it hilarious that Vincent was about to negotiate against his ex-girlfriend's crush. 4 hours later, Vincent was in a black SUV heading toward Pennsylvania, David Chen chattering nervously in the passenger seat while 3 Veil security personnel followed in a second vehicle. So the Chen family patriarch is named Wei Chen, no relation to me or your mother, different character entirely, David explained, scrolling through his tablet. 83 years old, high-tier metal affinity cultivator, fought in the Soul Awakening Wars in the 60s. Very traditional, very proud. His daughter Lynn runs the day-to-day operations, and his grandson Marcus is being groomed to take over eventually. Marcus Chen? Vincent frowned. Not the drunk from the reunion? What? No, different Marcus. This one is actually competent. David pulled up a photo, young man, mid-20s, earth affinity with some metal bloodline traits. He's the one who first noticed the ley line destabilization. Smart kid, studying geomantic engineering at MIT. Vincent watched Pennsylvania countryside roll past the windows, autumn colors fading to winter brown, small towns giving way to rural farmland, then forests as they approached the Chen estate. What's Eclipse's angle? Vincent asked. Money and security. They're offering triple what we're offering financially, plus a permanent security detail and state-of-the-art protective formations around the estate. David looked worried. Honestly, sir, it's a good offer. If we're just competing on terms, we'll lose. So we don't compete on terms. We compete on trust. How do you build trust in one meeting? By risking something Eclipse won't. Vincent felt his gravity core pulse gently, responding to his determination. Eclipse will offer safety from a distance, security teams, formations, money to rebuild if things go wrong. I'm going to offer to fix the problem myself, in person, with my own cultivation. David's eyes widened. That's incredibly dangerous. If you fail. If I fail, I'll probably die in a ley line collapse, and the Chen family will know Avail was willing to die for their safety. That's worth more than any contract Eclipse can offer. Vincent met David's gaze. Sometimes the best negotiation isn't what you promise. It's what you're willing to sacrifice. They pulled up to the Chen estate 90 minutes later, a sprawling property with a traditional manor house at its center, surrounded by gardens and training grounds where several cultivators were practicing techniques. The 3 ley lines were visible even from the surface, glowing faintly through the earth like underground rivers of blue-white light. And the Eclipse convoy was already there, 4 luxury vehicles, at least a dozen personnel in corporate suits, and standing at the center like he owned the place, Lucas Hahn. He looked exactly like Vincent remembered from old photos Arya had shown him, tall, athletic build, sharp features, lightning affinity aura making the air around him crackle faintly. He wore an expensive charcoal suit that probably cost more than Vincent's entire wardrobe used to cost in Boston, and he radiated the kind of confidence that came from being told you were exceptional your entire life. Lucas spotted Vincent's SUV and smiled, not friendly, but anticipatory. Like a predator seeing prey. Vincent stepped out of the vehicle, David following nervously. The 3 Vail security personnel took positions near the SUV, not aggressive but alert. Vincent Vail, Lucas called out, his voice carrying that same amplified quality many high-tier cultivators used. I heard you finally came home. Must be nice to stop pretending to be nobody. Several Eclipse personnel smirked. Vincent felt David tense beside him, but he kept his expression neutral, walking forward calmly. Lucas Hahn. I've heard a lot about you. From Arya, I imagine. Lucas's smile widened. She called me yesterday, actually. Said something about finally getting coffee together. After all these years, turns out timing is everything. The comment was designed to wound, reminder that Arya had chosen Lucas, that Vincent had lost, that he was still second place even now. Vincent felt his gravity core stir, pressure building in his chest. The ground beneath his feet groaned softly. Control. He needed control. I'm happy for both of you, Vincent said evenly. I'm here for business, not personal drama. Of course. The Chen family contract. Lucas gestured toward the manor house. Though I'm not sure why Vail Consortium sent their newly revealed heir instead of an actual negotiation team. Seems risky. I'm a fast learner. You'd have to be, considering you were sealed for 9 years while the rest of us were actually developing our cultivation and business skills. Lucas's tone was light, conversational, but the insult was clear. Tell me, do you even know what a ley line convergence is? Or were you too busy playing office worker in Boston? One of the Eclipse personnel, a woman with fire affinity, snickered. Vincent was about to respond when the manor house doors opened and an elderly man walked out, his presence immediately commanding attention. Wei Chen, the patriarch. Metal affinity aura surrounded him like armor, decades of cultivation making the air itself feel heavier, more solid. Behind him came a woman in her 50s, Lin Chen, presumably, and a young man Vincent recognized from David's photos, Marcus Chen, the grandson. Gentlemen, Wei said, his voice carrying authority despite his age. You're both early. I appreciate punctuality. His eyes swept over both groups, assessing. Eclipse brings 12 representatives. Vail brings 3 security and 2 people. Interesting contrast. We believe in quality over quantity, Vincent said. Lucas laughed. We believe in showing proper respect through appropriate resources. Wei's expression was unreadable. Let's discuss this inside. My daughter has prepared tea. He turned toward the house, then paused. 1 representative from each company. The rest wait here. Lucas gestured to his team, then followed Wei inside without hesitation. Vincent nodded to David and the security team, then walked forward, but he felt it immediately. The ley line instability. Now that he was on the property, his gravity core could sense the tension in the earth, 3 massive rivers of mana pulling in different directions, the convergence point beneath the manor house trembling like an overstretched rope about to snap. This was worse than the geological surveys had indicated. Much worse. Inside, The manor was traditional: wood floors, paper screens, weapons displayed on walls from Wei Chen's long life as a cultivator. They gathered in a formal sitting room where Lin served tea with practiced grace while Marcus stood silently near his grandfather. "I'll be direct," Wei said once tea was poured. "My family has lived on this land for 4 generations. We cultivated it, bled for it, built our legacy here. Now the earth itself is turning against us, ley lines pulling apart, the convergence failing. Eclipse offers money and security. Vale offers." He looked at Vincent. "What does Vale offer?" "A solution," Vincent said. "Not a band-aid. A permanent fix." Lucas set down his teacup. "With respect, Patriarch Wei, Vale is offering promises. Eclipse is offering tangible resources." "I can re-anchor your ley line convergence," Vincent interrupted, looking directly at Wei. "Use my gravity cultivation to balance the 3 flows, create a stable pressure point that will hold for decades. Maybe longer." Silence. Lin broke it first. "That's theoretically possible, but the risk?" "If I fail, the convergence collapses and probably kills me in the process," Vincent said flatly. "I understand the risk. I'm willing to take it." Marcus leaned forward, interested. "You've done this before?" "No. But I understand the principle. Gravity manipulation can redistribute force, balance pressure. The ley lines are pulling in 3 directions. I can create a 4th force, a central anchor that equalizes the tension. Or you could trigger an immediate collapse and destroy my family's home." Wei's voice was hard. "Why should I let you try?" "Because Eclipse's formations won't hold forever," Vincent replied. "Formations can be maintained, but they're external solutions to an internal problem. They're treating symptoms, not causes. Eventually, maybe in 5 years, maybe in 20, the pressure will overcome any formation they build, and the convergence will collapse anyway." Lucas's jaw tightened. "You're fearmongering." "I'm being honest." Vincent kept his eyes on Wei. "My gravity core can feel your ley lines right now. They're not just unstable, they're dying. The tension is increasing daily. Eclipse's money and security teams won't matter when the entire property collapses into a mana storm that could level everything within 5 miles. Wei studied him for a long moment. "Show me." They went outside, both negotiation teams, the Chen family, everyone gathering in the estate's central courtyard where the ley line convergence was strongest. Vincent could feel it now, pulsing beneath his feet like a wounded animal, 3 massive flows of mana straining against each other. "Here," Marcus said, pointing to a spot where the earth had cracked, blue-white light seeping through like blood from a wound. "This is where the pressure is worst. We have to repair this crack weekly, and it keeps getting bigger." Vincent knelt, placing his hand on the cracked earth. His gravity core responded immediately, sensing the 3 ley lines, one flowing east, one south, one northwest. All pulling against each other, the convergence point stretching like fabric about to tear. "How long?" he asked Marcus. "Until complete failure? Maybe 6 months. Maybe 6 weeks. The deterioration is accelerating." Vincent stood, brushing dirt from his hands. He looked at Wei Chen, at the old man's proud face, at the family who'd built 4 generations of legacy on this land and were watching it crumble. "I can fix this," Vincent said. "But I need everyone to evacuate to at least half a mile. If I lose control, the collapse will be immediate." "You're actually going to try this?" Lucas looked genuinely surprised. "You've been unsealed for 3 days, and you're going to attempt advanced geomantic stabilization? This isn't some airport fight, this requires precision, control, sustained focus over hours." "Then I'll learn fast." Vincent looked at Wei. "Do I have your permission?" Wei Chen smiled for the first time, a warrior's smile, recognizing another warrior's courage. "You have it. My family will evacuate. Try not to destroy my home, Vale Heir." The next hour was chaos as both Eclipse and Vale teams withdrew to safe distance, the Chen family supervising evacuation of servants and valuable artifacts. Lucas argued loudly that this was reckless, that Vincent was going to get himself killed and take the estate with him, that Eclipse's offer was still superior. Wei ignored him. Finally, Vincent stood alone in the courtyard, evening sun casting long shadows across cracked earth. He could feel dozens of eyes watching from the safe perimeter: David, the Vale security team, Eclipse personnel, the Chen family, Lucas Han. No pressure. Vincent closed his eyes, letting his gravity core fully engage for the first time since the airport. Power flooded his meridians, the sensation overwhelming after 9 years of suppression. He could feel everything, every rock, every tree, every person watching from a distance. All of it connected to him through gravity, through the fundamental force that held the universe together. And beneath his feet, 3 wounded ley lines bleeding mana into the earth. Vincent reached down with his cultivation, not physically but with intent, with chi, with the gravity manipulation that defined his core. He found the first ley line, the eastern flow, strongest of the 3, pulling like a river trying to break its banks. He wrapped it in gravity, not stopping the flow but redirecting it slightly, guiding it toward the convergence point rather than away from it. The ley line resisted. Pure mana had its own momentum, its own will. Controlling it was like trying to redirect a waterfall with your bare hands. Vincent gritted his teeth, pouring more chi into the manipulation. Sweat broke out on his forehead. The eastern ley line began to shift, degree by painful degree, bending toward the center. 1 down. 2 to go. He reached for the southern flow, weaker, more erratic, surging and receding like a wounded animal. This one required gentle pressure, coaxing rather than forcing. Vincent softened his gravity manipulation, creating a gentle well that drew the southern flow toward the convergence naturally. Better. The southern ley line eased into alignment, tension reducing slightly. But the northwestern flow was the problem, wild, chaotic, pulling so hard in the wrong direction that Vincent could feel the convergence point tearing under the strain. This was the ley line that would kill him if he couldn't control it. Vincent opened his eyes, staring at the cracked earth. Blue-white light was leaking faster now, his manipulation of the other 2 flows increasing pressure on the third. He had minutes, maybe less, before the entire convergence collapsed. He dropped to his knees, pressing both hands flat against the ground, and released his full S-rank cultivation for the first time with intent rather than panic.